So let's talk about the Fall 2 reports. You only have 5 aggregate reports, so that's a lot less than Fall 1. There's a new one, Report 2.4. You can identify it because it's not linked to any other report at this time. I've heard discussion. This has been brought to the attention of requirements, and perhaps there may be a modification to add a supporting report, but as of now, you will not find a student detail level report that corresponds with 2.14. All the green reports listed are additional supporting reports, and the arrows provide how they are linked. So report 2.4 can drill down to 2.7, and you can see the EAL services provided each student in detail. And so that's how the links are presented on this slide. And specifically, you can go to the Fall 2 course mapping guides and the CalPADS user manual, and all of these reports have been mapped. And so the details of how they are presented, where the information comes from, is in the mapping guide. And it's very easy. You can just type CalPADS user manual in your Google search bar, and it'll come up. It's very web accessible. So the first report, 2.4, is important, right? EAL Education Services, student count, and unduplicated. And so highlighted in red is the total number of English learners. For most of you, this will correspond with your Fall 1 counts. If you've made any changes since certifying your data to the EAL designations, the English Language Acquisition Status for your students, it may not be a one-for-one correlation. However, for a lot of you who have not made any changes to your student information, it will be. Then the rest of the titles in the green headers correspond with education service codes. These are the codes found in your course record. So you can't see it because the cell isn't wide enough, but it would say primary language instruction and designated ELD instruction, and behind that it would say 1, because that is Education Service Code 1. Then the next one is designated ELD instruction, and you can't see where it would say 2. And then the third column, or the fourth column, but the third category is integrated ELD instruction. That would be 3, so on and so forth. At the end, you can see 5 and 6 because they have shorter titles. Okay, right? And so what we're going to see highlighted in the yellowish-orange color, number 3, is how the report is aggregated. You can see how it's added up. So let me get the cursor ready. All right, so if we look at if number 1, right? And so if you have, you're looking at column 1, this count of students are receiving primary language instruction, if 1, right? That's what that means. And they're receiving any combination of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that tells you number 1 is top in the hierarchy. If they're receiving this instruction here, primary language of instruction and designated ELD, it doesn't matter what additional instruction they're getting in their other coursework, they're going to be reported once and only once in 1. Because this is an unduplicated count, students may receive multiple models of EAL services, but they're going to be reported once, right? And so let's look at designated ELD instruction. If 2, right? That's the second column. It's Education Service Code 2. If 2 and 5 or 6, then the student is counted as 2, right? So if you're 2 and you're receiving no services in one class and other services in another class, you're going to be counted in 2. However, if you are 2 and 3, right, you're receiving designated ELD instruction in one class and integrated ELD instruction in another, if you're 2 and 3, you're going to fall in bucket 4, right? Unless you also receive ELD instruction, then you'd be 1. And so this table here will help you identify and break down why students are counted in certain buckets. For elementary schools, when your students might only be receiving one type of EL instruction, it's not hard to discern. But when you're in a secondary school and your students taking multiple classes and might be receiving multiple services, identifying the count may rely you to look at the footnote and see this breakdown. This also can be found in the CalPADS user manual. And so report 2.5 is the count of teachers providing services, and you can see that it's the same breakdown and the same aggregation formula. You can see that there's a total count of teachers providing services. Again, this is not based on the authorization and credentials of your teachers. It's not solely based on the Education Service Code. What you have to consider is that an EAL student must be enrolled into a course for a teacher to provide service. Just because a teacher is authorized, if there is no staff, no student to provide service to, they're not going to be counted. And so that's been a question in years past. Why is the teacher missing? Most often, you do not have an EAL student enrolled in that class. Report 2.6 is the EAL count by primary language. This should correspond with your report 2.8 count of EAL students. Report 2.8 from Fall 1 provides a list of all English language acquisition statuses. However, there's a column for EAL students, and this should closely correlate. Then report 2.7 is the breakdown. It's the student list of every student, every EL student, and only EL students. So not your IFEP, not your RFEP. These are the EL students that have services provided. They will not be on this report if no service is provided, right? These are students who services are provided to. And then you have report 2.4, language of instruction program count. And so this is the new report. I'm least familiar with this report, but you can see that it supports what Kyron told you, that students who are not EL students can have LIT programs, and they are shown here counted, right? What I do want to point out is even EO students can be in LIT programs. I think when we just mocked up the data, we didn't have EO students. However, if you give an EO student a LIT program, I think they will be represented in this report. And then you have the different program codes and categories listed at the top, dividing the different columns. Report 3.1 is your class size by content area. The content area is designated by the state course code. So you can see that the content area will be designated by the state course code. It's featured here. The valid code combinations document will identify the content area for each state course code if you want to do some report analysis, right? That's your reference. The number of classes are represented by unique class IDs, so that your class is different from the course or course section. The number of classes are going to be represented by the number of unique class IDs. You have the total enrollment and then the average class size. If you have an average class size represented that is extremely large, right? Say you have 45 kids in a class, that's an indication you're using duplicate class IDs. So that's something you can look forward towards. Report 3.2, class enrollment by content area. This is similar to a lot of Fall 1 reports where the race ethnicity breakdown is featured. You can see that you'll have a count of how many students identify themselves as being of Hispanic ethnicity, and then how many students identify with the individual race categories. And you have class enrollment by student list, report 3.3. This is the drill down. This is where you get the individual student's name, like Calistoga, Aquafina, Fiji. You have the race, the grade, the gender, so you have some student demographics. That's why we were talking about the relationship between the different programs. Then you see that you have the teacher's seed and name, right? So that's going to come from the staff demographic. Then you have the course information, right? The class ID, the course, state course code, the section, the term. sub-content category, if there is one, the school of course delivery, so on and so forth. Then report 3.7 is the course section enrollment count by details. This is the best breakdown of each course and each course record, right? And so this is just coming straight from the course file, report 3.7. You're looking at your different course information. Then report 3.8 is the course section enrollment count by content area. Again, we're going to add student enrollment, student course section enrollment, and the course file into one report. We're associating the student, their demographic information, and their enrollment into the course record. Then you have your staff count by FTE and job classification, and this is a representation of your SAS record. This data is coming from the SAS file. You have your job classification codes, the number of staff in each classification, and then the FTE ratio. Just understand that the number of staff is the total number and the unduplicated total, same as FTE and ratio, that's highlighted in red. However, the different individual job classification breakdown is not unduplicated, and those columns have been highlighted in black in number 2. So you have seen with multiple assignments or multiple classifications may be represented more than once in those individual columns, and you may not see that exactly represented in the unduplicated total here, right? Because we're really looking at FTE ratio, not necessarily the staff. And then 4.2, staff count by FTE and job classification disaggregated. This is the supporting report for 4.1. It's just the disaggregated totals. And then report 4.3, staff teaching assignment detail. This is the report. This is your get out of jail free card. This is the when you play Uno, pick 5, right? This is the one. This is the report that I call it. What is it? CYA report, right? This is the one you present to your curriculum and instruction, and you say, here, can you review this report and make sure that our staff members are appropriately assigned, right? You have your list of your teachers, their seed number, then it's associated to the courses they provide. These are the teaching assignments in detail. That's the name of this report. And so your curriculum instruction department can look at each teacher, look at their credentials, and make sure that the state course code, which you can see listed in state course code, that their credentials match their assignment, right? If they're teaching to standards that they're authorized to teach at. They're providing the EAL service that they are authorized to provide. So this is, when your curriculum instruction want to know why you're giving them this, you tell them, this is the assignment monitoring, then you give them Bradley's Padlet link, and then, you take some of the responsibility and force your staff profile. This is a reflection of both the staff demographic and the staff assignment record. Report 4.5 is your non-classroom based support assignment. So report 4.5 is the complement to report 4.3. When you say teaching assignment, we're just talking about the staff member who are teaching courses. Report 4.5 are the staff members who are not teaching courses or who are teaching courses but have additional non-classroom based support assignments. And so that is that breakdown. It's only excluding 6018.